Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. You call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
It's Saturday, the 31st of January. I'm Ciara Evans, and this was a week that saw Keir Starmer head to China. The Tories and Reform go head-to-head. Russia condemned for daily war crimes in Ukraine. And BAFTA announced this year's nominees.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
This week saw US President Donald Trump threaten Canada with 100% tariffs if they dared to do a trade deal with China. So it was a potentially awkward moment for UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to be hopping on the government jet for a trade mission to China. But that's what he did on Tuesday. He brought a sizable trade delegation with him, and asked by Bloomberg if he was worried about Trump's reaction, he said he's not going to choose between the two and that the UK had ignored China for too long. Lord Sedwill is a former UK National Security Advisor, and he agreed with the PM.
Diplomacy is not about talking to our friends. It is about talking to countries with whom we can have at least a partially adversarial relationship, as we do with China. And I certainly found in dealing with the Chinese, they understood that that was the case, and I made sure it wasn't just a perfunctory.
The delegation were instructed to bring burner phones to cut down on the risks of espionage, and Housing Secretary Steve Reid says that the PM's team were well prepared.
Fully alive to what the risks may be, not just from China, but from any foreign source that it might come from. Fully alive to that. China is also the second biggest economy on the planet.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's 3-day China trade mission was the first in 8 years. And before Starmer and Xi Jinping met for face-to-face talks, the Chinese leader praised the PM for a new approach to Beijing.
In China, we say one should range far your eye over long vistas. As long as we take a broad perspective, rise above differences, and respect each other, then we will prove ourselves able to stand the test of history.
Keir Starmer was keen to emphasise that, in his view, Britain needs to be more open to the world, and that he's hoping for a new relationship built on stability and clarity.
The UK and China need a long-term, consistent and comprehensive strategic partnership. China is a vital player on the global stage, and it's vital that we build a more sophisticated relationship.
Friday saw Prime Minister wrapping up his visit to China with a stop in Shanghai before he headed to Japan for a meeting with their Prime Minister Sana Takaichi. The visit to China appears to have gone well, with a warm welcome from Chinese leader Xi Jinping and news on improved market access for British goods, lower tariff rates and visa-free travel to China for Brits for up to 30 days. The PM was sounding positive about the prospect for future closer relations.
Now, I made it a founding principle of my government that Britain would face outward again and re-engage with the world, because when global events affect everything, then this is how we deliver for the British people.
Donald Trump didn't seem particularly happy about the visit, warning that it's very dangerous to look to China for economic support. The US president won't be pleased either that China's UN ambassador Fu Kong has criticised his military adventurism in the Middle East.
The use of force cannot solve problems. Any military adventurism will only push the region into an abyss of unpredictability. We call on all parties to abide by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter.
Last weekend saw a break from international drama as an internal Labour Party power struggle spilled over onto the front pages. There's been plenty of speculation about a leadership challenge to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham is one of those keen to take on the PM. However, unless he is a Member of Parliament, it's a non-runner. So when a vacancy arose with a by-election in Gorton and Denton, he was disappointed to be told by Labour HQ that he was not allowed to run. Housing and Local Government Minister Steve Reid said that Andy needs to focus on his day job.
The reason that the NEC has taken that decision is because they don't want to inconvenience 2 million people when the current mayor is only halfway through his term. So I know this is disappointing for Andy. There will be opportunities in the future, and I'd love to welcome him into Parliament in due course.
The move hasn't gone down well with Labour backbenchers, and Neil Duncan-Jordan told Sky News that it sets a poor tone.
It sort of reeks of where we've been before. People trying to prevent pluralistic views coming forward and members being allowed to have a democratic say in who they want to be their representative.
Monday saw Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham back in the day job after the weekend's wrestling match with Labour head office over whether or not he could run as a candidate in a Manchester by-election. Andy was doorstepped by the press on Monday and he wasn't prepared to discuss it any further.
I'm not making any comment. I said what I needed to say and here I am, back in my job, full focus on my job as Mayor of Greater Manchester.
The PM was focused on May's local elections and said that having any distraction like an election for Mayor of Manchester would impact his goal of reducing the cost of living. With Reform and the Tories busy attacking each other, Starmer was keen to keep his party focused on winning rather than in fighting in Labour.
Yes, there is a fight, but that fight is with Reform. And we all need to line up together to be in that fight, all playing our part. Everybody who's a Labour MP wants to be in that fight, in a fight that matters hugely to the future of our country.
It might seem like a strange time to decide to emulate US law enforcement, but this week saw government announce plans to create a British version of the FBI. The new service, which will be called the National Police Service, or NPS, is part of a package of reforms that the Home Secretary says is necessary to fix a policing system that is broken. Shabana Mahmood will announce the full details of the reform on Monday, but it appears they will see fewer regional police forces and a requirement for every police officer to have a licence to practice. Mahmood said that it's important to stay agile to cope with changing criminal behaviour.
The point of our reforms is a national police service will deal with all of the national and international crime. It will be their job to go after terrorists. You know, we need a really agile national service that can keep pace with the international criminals who change their business model all the time.
As the government considers whether or not to ban teens from social media, there have been fresh calls for more comprehensive bans on phones in schools. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has written to every school in England, urging them to make sure that schools are phone-free for the whole of the school day. The new guidance clears up some confusion from previous guidance issued by the Tory government in 2024, which saw some students use phones as calculators or to carry out research in the classroom. With a 3-month consultation underway on a full ban on social media for teens, Daniel Cabetti, the General Secretary of the National Education Union, is calling for legislation rather than just guidance on phone use.
Schools' policies can end up meaning that they're ending up in conflict with parents or indeed young people about how to enforce these. So, putting this on a statutory footing would be welcome.
The Prime Minister Keir Starmer in China and Tory leader Kemi Badenoch making a policy speech. It was a case of the deputies taking the stage at this week's Prime Minister's Question Time. The Tories don't officially have a deputy leader, so various cabinet members get a chance to audition when the boss is away. This week the opportunity fell to Andrew Griffith, who is the Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade. He was focused on the business part, criticising the latest Labour U-turn, which will see the Chancellor roll back proposed hikes in business rates for bars and pubs in the budget.
Our high streets are bleeding out and the Chancellor's handing out a box of sticking plasters. They can't even U-turn properly.
Deputy PM David Lammy was at the dispatch box for Labour and he was taking no prisoners for a change.
The party opposite left a shameful legacy. 1 in 8 young people not earning or learning when they left office. They've got nothing to say for the next generation.
Well, they saw another high-profile Tory defection to Reform. This time, it was former Home Secretary Suella Braverman. There was now more ex-Tory MPs in Reform than there are actual Reform MPs, as Suella's arrival brings the total up to 8. Her departure was met with a sharp-toned press release from Conservative head office, which initially said, "We did all we could to look after Suella's mental health, but she was clearly very unhappy." That didn't go down well and sparked an apology over what the Tories said was a draft version released in error. Suella compared her decision to quit to a divorce and sounded pretty pleased to have escaped as she addressed a Reform event.
I feel like I've come home, and I've got to say what an honour it is to be with all of you. Gallant, noble, brave servicemen and women. You've put your country first.
Despite warning in many newspaper articles that you can never trust the Tories, Nigel Farage was sounding pretty pleased about his latest recruit.
Well, we're a party that accepts talent. If you get people who we believe are talented, who will put their shoulder to the wheel, who will help us, but are also prepared to admit honestly the failings of the Conservative Party in 14 years in government.
Tory leader Kemi Badenoch took centre stage on Wednesday as she struck back at the ongoing Tory defections to Reform. In the last 10 days or so, former cabinet ministers Nadhim Zahawi, Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman have all exited and turned up at Reform HQ. With local elections looming in May, she's keen to stop the rot and make clear that the future direction of the Conservative Party will be set by her and the agenda she was elected on. That means cutting immigration, U-turning on net zero and cutting social welfare. And she wasn't too impressed by the recent defectors speaking to them like they were children having a strop.
I'm sorry you didn't win the leadership contest. I'm sorry you didn't get a job in the shadow cabinet. I'm sorry you didn't get into the Lords. But you are not offering a plan to fix this country. This is a tantrum dressed up as politics.
Last weekend saw the first trilateral talks between Ukraine, Russia and the US over 2 days in Abu Dhabi. Even as the talks were going on, Russia continued to attack Ukraine with drone and missile strikes on Kyiv and Kharkiv, which killed at least one person. The US hailed the talks as a success and a big step, with more talks due to take place next weekend. Ukrainian President Zelensky says the talks were constructive and was keen to emphasise that European allies are united in Ukraine's defence.
All the states of southern Europe are with us. In 1863, the insurgents could not have dreamed of such unity. And now this unity exists and is working.
After last week's chaos over Greenland and a fresh controversy over the US president's disparaging remarks about NATO troops in Afghanistan, Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey said this week that it's time that the UK recognises we're entering a new and more difficult era in Europe, which requires a substantial boost in defence spending.
I think we are almost like a Cold War type scenario, aren't we? This is a serious threat and we need to move far faster than the government's been doing.
This weekend we're due to see more trilateral talks between Ukraine and Russia and the US in Abu Dhabi as efforts continue to bring the war to an end. A new report from a Washington think tank says that the level of casualties in the war, that is troops who have been killed, injured or are missing, is close to 2 million people. Russia has suffered the majority of those casualties and Ukrainian President Zelensky says they have no intention of giving any quarter on the front lines.
When we speak of 50,000 Russian losses per month, that is the optimal level. It is a difficult task, but it is precisely the level needed for Russia to begin weighing what it is doing and what it is fighting for.
The United States seems to be engaged in the peace process despite last week's drama over Greenland, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says there is no NATO without the US.
And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO.
Russia once again spent the week hammering Ukraine with drone and missile attacks, including one on a passenger train that killed at least 5 people. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the biggest outstanding issue in the peace talks remains the question of territory, and he didn't sound too optimistic about a quick resolution, describing it as very difficult. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz called out Putin for the ongoing attacks on Ukraine and its energy infrastructure on Thursday.
We are doing everything we can to help Ukraine. However, we are also seeing the ruthless bombardment of Ukraine's entire civilian infrastructure. These are daily war crimes being committed by Russia against Ukraine and its people. That is why we are also trying to do everything in our power to bring this war to an end.
Still to come on the Standout 7 in association with Metro, Donald Trump's ICE under pressure in Minneapolis and BAFTA nominations announced.
Right after this.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Welcome back.
Last weekend saw another death at the hands of Donald Trump's immigration force, ICE. The shooting happened in Minneapolis and saw 37-year-old nurse Alex Jeffrey Pretty killed when he attempted to intervene as ICE agents were spraying protesters with pepper spray. Video of the shooting circulated widely, and once again, both ICE and the Department of Homeland Security were quick to accuse the victim of domestic terrorism, although he was a US citizen and appeared to be restrained at the time he was shot multiple times. His death has sparked fresh protests, and Governor Tim Walz activated the National Guard to ensure things stayed calm. But comments from the head of ICE, Greg Bovino, didn't make that any easier as he tried to discount the video evidence.
We don't know that agent was taking any gun away. That could have been the agents, because we don't know that. The facts are going to come to light.
So you're disputing the video, that's what happened?
With an that's why we investigate.
The second fatal shooting appeared to have caused the first cracks to appear in the Trump administration's ICE campaign, while Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Donald Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller have been quick to label protesters domestic terrorists and actively block investigations into the shootings. It seems President Trump may have had enough. With terrible polling numbers for his immigration policy, he announced that border czar Tom Homan is being dispatched to the Twin Cities to take over operations, and he spoke at length to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on Monday. The governor wasn't too impressed, however.
So my question is, what's the plan, Donald Trump? What is the plan? What do we need to do to get these federal agents out of our state? You thought fear, violence, and chaos is what you wanted from us? And you clearly underestimated the people of this state and nation.
Donald Trump was causing more international chaos on Wednesday as what he described as a massive armada steamed into the Gulf. His new target is Iran, and he's piling on the pressure in a bid to force Tehran to the table to negotiate on their nuclear program. It's proving difficult for Congress to keep up with Trump, as Secretary of State appeared in front of Senate committee on Wednesday to answer questions on Trump's previous crusades, including Venezuela, the narco boats, and of course, Greenland. Senator Tim Kaine wanted to make sure that the president didn't also have designs on Iceland after a confusing press conference at Davos.
The president repeatedly mistook Iceland for Greenland, right? The president just mistook the two countries for each other, correct?
Yeah, he meant to say Greenland, but I think we're all familiar with presidents that have verbal stumbles. We've had presidents like that before. Some made a lot more than this one.
Nice try. Thanks.
The US government appears to have avoided another shutdown as Democrats in the Senate reached an interim agreement to pass funding bills while they negotiate new guardrails for ICE actions across the country. Donald Trump was busy on Thursday announcing that Venezuela's airspace could reopen, promising that Vladimir Putin would pause attacks on Ukraine, and continuing to threaten Iran with his massive armada, which remains perched in the Gulf. There's also been alarm over an FBI raid on the election hub in Georgia, which was the centre of claims of voter fraud in 2020. It seems the president is continuing to pursue his claim that the election his government ran was rigged. Democratic Senator John Ossoff is concerned that this year's midterm elections could be under threat.
He is wielding the American government as an instrument of personal revenge and personal power in a way completely unprecedented for the American presidency.
WASPy women are back in the news, and if you're struggling to remember what that stands for, it's Women Against State Pension Inequality. Campaigners say that over 3 million who were born in the 1950s didn't get proper information about a change in the pension age, which left them working for years longer than necessary. A parliamentary ombudsman recommended that those affected should get compensation of between £1,000 and £3,000, but Work and Pension Secretary Pat McFadden had bad news for the women on Thursday.
To specifically compensate only those women who suffered injustice would require a scheme that could reliably verify the individual circumstances of millions of women.
He did offer an apology, but the government says it's impossible to verify which women would be entitled to compensation, and to pay everyone would cost over £10 billion, which they say they can't afford. Angela Madden is the chair of the Women Against State Pension Inequality group, and she was bitterly disappointed about how the process unfolded.
It's a disgraceful political choice made by very powerful ministers who refuse to discuss it with the House. They've come out with a decision they made a long time ago, I think.
Tuesday saw the nominations announced for the British Academy of Film and Television Awards. In the film section, there was no real surprises as all of the awards season favourites hit their marks. One battle after another got 14 nominations, closely followed by Sinners and Hamnet. Jessie Buckley and Timothée Chalamet both got Best Actor nominations, with Paul Mescal also getting a Best Supporting nod after an Oscar snub. The ceremony takes place at London's Royal Festival Hall on February 22nd. Jane Millichip is the BAFTA CEO.
It's great to see Robert Aramayo standing next, shoulder to shoulder with Michael B. Jordan and Leo DiCaprio as in the leading actor category. So there's a lot to see there, and it's it's a real testament to great filmmaking.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies? That's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 5-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.